Hey guys, what's going on? Chris here for JR Cigars, and we are back with a new episode of the Long Ash podcast. It's a solo episode. I do have Tyler behind the camera, mic'd up. We're doing another kind of AMA episode, Ask Me Anything. We posted on our Instagram stories. We got some really good questions this time around. But the last few months, I would say, last 2-3 months, we've had a bunch of guests on, some who work here, some who do not work here but are in the cigar industry, and it's been a lot of fun to kind of have these guests on and kind of get to see a different side of the cigar world that you may not have seen before. But I'm going to jump into these questions. We have 10 questions I have answers to, and then another someone wrote it, like kind of gave a statement, or like I guess it was a question, but I wasn't really educated on. I looked up a few facts about it, but maybe it's a topic for another episode down the road. So first question I got was my favorite Crown Heads cigar. I think I'd be a little biased if I didn't pick the cigar that was in the previous episode where James and I did our Mount Rushmore of cigars. I know it was a collaboration with Drew Estate, but I'd have to go with the Crown Heads La Coalition. It is still out there for sale somewhere. And so I would recommend getting that cigar and adding it to your collection. And it was a tough one to choose for this question because there's just so many great cigars under Crown Heads. But like I said, I feel like I'd be biased if I didn't pick the cigar that was on my Mount Rushmore list. If you can't get your hands on the La Coalition or looking for something, different to try from them, I would go anywhere between, the Mil Diaz Maduro, the La Vereda. It's a little bit more pricier, but their catalog is so, I don't know, it's just such a wide catalog for so many different cigar smokers out there. But if you can get your hands on the La Coalition by Crown Heads, I would say try it. Let me know what you think. But that is probably my favorite Crown Heads cigar thus far. Second question. This one was a little tough. I'm going to go into a little bit more. Someone wrote 5 celebrities, dead or alive, that I would like to have a cigar with. And I would like to, I know, Tyler, you don't smoke as much, but
I don't.
if I'm going to give you my 5 celebrities, and maybe you can give me a few celebrities you'd like to smoke with, or just sit down while they're having a cigar and just chop it up with. But
Of course.
and this is in no particular order. These are just the 5 I thought right off the bat. First one had to be Michael Jordan. If you watch the Last Dance documentary back in 2020, when he was being interviewed, he was smoking the long, like I don't even know, I would say like a massive Lancero, like maybe a 6x90. That's a guess. Unbanded, so it's definitely from Cuba. But even all the footage from when he was playing and when he was on the golf course and when he won championships, Cohibas and other brands he was always smoking. So I feel like sitting down, having a cigar with him, talking about my favorite sport, asking him 1,000 questions if I could. I think that would be pretty cool to experience. The second one is probably one of my favorite directors of all time. When I was first really getting into like movies that are made for, not made for kids, my grandparents pretty much showed me this guy's catalog from start to finish. That'd be, I don't know if he's a Sir, but I'm going to call him Sir Alfred Hitchcock. There's images of him smoking cigars out there, right, or a cigar in his mouth, but I would love to just sit down, have a cigar with him for 2 hours and just, discuss the shower scene from Psycho, how he pulled off the one shot trick in the movie Rope. Talk to him about Rear Window. If I were able to plop him in today's day and age, and if he had maybe a week to watch modern cinema, what would he think of modern cinema, modern horror? Because there was horror movies in the 30s, late 20s, early 30s, 40s. But I don't know, he was able to capture suspense so well when it came to like modern day things. Like, who would have thought that birds could be a villain in a movie? or you know, the twist in Psycho. That was one of the first movies I saw with a twist where I like freaked out. So I think he would be someone I would love to have a cigar with. Third person is probably the reason I wanted to get into acting, and he was such a huge part of my childhood, is Robin Williams. I don't even know if he smoked cigars. I know he did every other drug under the sun, but I don't know if he ever smoked cigars. But I would just know if I'm sitting down having a cigar with him, I'd have to have some whiskey because I know he'd be making me laugh and die like uncontrollably. And really just kind of ask him, you know, about his career, because, you know, there's another actor on this list too that is really influential to me, but the way he was able to really kind of do movies for, you know, when we were kids, and then he did, you know, he would do what I think he did, was it Insomnia?
Yeah.
With Christopher Nolan.
Christopher Nolan film. Yeah.
So you know, he goes from doing kids movies to Christopher Nolan to, you know, things, you know, What Dreams May Come was a devastating, beautiful movie. His range was undeniable. Dead Poet Society, Good Will Hunting. I would just like to sit and talk to him about, you know, you came out as a comedic actor, stand-up comedian, and you made a career for yourself where you did a lot of stuff. And he did some flops, I would say, towards the end of his career, but just kind of see like what was your mindset with doing so many different genres, because I like to act in a very, you know, independent level, but in a lot of different things. I think I'm stronger in other genres than others, but he kind of went for it, and I loved it. So the fourth celebrity I would like to smoke with, rest in peace, to James Gandolfini, Mr. Tony Soprano himself. They did smoke a lot of cigars on the series, The Sopranos, which Tyler's kind of doing a fun little project with that. I don't want to spoil too much about it, but
Yep.
Smoked a lot of cigars, and I felt like smoking cigars for him, for Tony Soprano, was like a status, a symbol of wealth, of kind of, you know, cigars are kind of meant to be like wealth, powerful. And Tony Soprano was very powerful, although very insecure. But another actor I would like to just sit down with. I think he got me, you know, watching The Sopranos got me into being like, you know what, I'm gonna try to audition, because at first I started off as just writing and directing. Didn't really want to be in front of the camera. I love comedy. I love writing comedy, but never thought I could be in front of a camera until I saw a guy, you know, balding, 6'1", heavy set, and how much he just commanded the screen and the performance, and how very different he was from Tony Soprano. Everyone, you know, you hear stories about how introverted he was and quiet, and, you know, I think there's a story where I forgot what season it was, where he ended up paying all the other actors on the set kind of out of his own money so they could all get paid equally, which I think that's very generous, especially when you see a lot of celebrities who are like, they'll do ads for money, they'll do anything for money. And for him to kind of just be like, I want this team to stay together. But sitting down with him, talking about how it was to play Tony Soprano. I know he didn't do a lot of interviews, so that would be great, though. And then the fifth and final person I would like to sit down and have a cigar with, just because I think, I said Robin Williams, I would say this actor influenced me more in my humor. And Robin Williams just made me feel like, he just made me feel good in all the performances he did. But Jim Carrey, I think hands down, like, you know, some of my favorite movies have him in it. He's an artist himself. Like, I saw, I think, a 60 Minutes segment on him where he paints, he draws, he's an artist itself. He's not doing too many movies lately. I know he did Sonic, and I saw last week he might be reported to, if they're going to do a live action Jetsons movie, he'd be George Jetson. So I'd like to just sit down with him and discuss his filmography, and, you know, just kind of hear what he thinks about the meaning of life is, because I feel like it'd be really interesting over a cigar and some whiskey. So those are 5 celebrities, dead or alive, I would like to have a cigar with. That list probably could have gone on forever, but right now, yeah, those are 5 figures in my life that influenced me in some way, whether it be in basketball or filmmaking. So, what about you?
Yeah, I don't think I have 5, but I think I have 4. So
Okay.
I definitely agree with 2 of yours. Alfred Hitchcock and James Gandolfini.
Yeah.
Especially James Gandolfini, because Sopranos is probably my favorite show of all time. I love it.
I'll never
love
forget
him.
when we were in a meeting and we saw the Coke bottle Peeps.
Yes. Oh
And
my god.
By the way, Tyler's impressions are he does a phenomenal Donald Trump impression and he does a phenomenal James Gandolfini impression. But yeah,
put
when
me
you
on
did
the
the
spot
Peeps,
here.
I was like, thank God someone in the like. But most of the guys here like have seen it, so like we're always quoting it.
Yeah.
So who are your other two?
The other 2 I would say is Arnold Schwarzenegger,
Mm-hmm.
famously smokes cigars. I think he'd be an interesting. I think he's just like a cool guy to
Yeah.
smoke cigars with. I love the clip. I remember seeing a clip of him just talking about why he loves smoking stogies or whatever, and how he doesn't have to hide the fact that he smokes stogies.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I just think he'd be great to smoke with. And then the last person I would say is Tim Robinson.
There we go. I
'Cause
was waiting for that. Yeah.
I am probably the biggest Tim Robinson fan out there. I love his comedy. And they make a lot of cigar references on I Think You Should Leave. So I would have to assume that he does smoke cigars.
He writes all that himself, or do they have a writing team? Or?
I think he writes it with this guy. Oh, I'm gonna forget his name. Zach something.
Okay.
Zach Kanan? I don't know. I could fact check that. But yeah, it's mainly him and his one friend. They kind of I think they both write the show together.
Yeah, so it's safe to say one of them at least enjoys cigars from time to time.
Definitely,
And
especially
he'd be
like,
funny to smoke with because he would just always
Oh,
it would be a
yeah.
bit,
Yes.
or he would take something from it and make
I would just love to hang out with him.
Yes,
and have a
yeah.
conversation with him.
Yeah.
So like if we're smoking a cigar together, lounging, I'm sure that'd be a fun time.
Definitely. I
but
like
yeah.
that. I like your choices for sure.
Yeah,
I
thank
like
you.
the Arnold choice because I didn't know that he said that he doesn't have to hide the fact that he smokes cigars.
From his wife. Yeah,
from his wife.
Yeah, he was
Okay,
talking
yeah,
about
yeah,
how
yeah.
like most guys they have to hide the fact that they smoke from their
That's
wives.
fun, yep.
But it's like not like me. I'm a boss. You know,
Yeah.
I
I'm the
smoke
governor.
I smoke stogies out in the open.
Yes, yes. All right. Third question: who got you into cigars? I remember as a kid, my stepdad, his brother-in-law, and his cousin, Christmas Eve every year, after dinner or in between the 1,000 courses we would have, would go outside, no matter how cold it was, and would have a cigar and whiskey around the bonfire. There was one year where they didn't have a bonfire set up because they weren't doing it at the normal house they did. So they went to a grocery store, and I'm probably incriminating them, but who cares? They went to a grocery store. They stole a shopping cart. They begged like a Home Depot to open up so they can get some firewood and some stuff for that. And they made their own little makeshift bonfire in the backyard. And that was the first time I stood outside with them, really. I never smoked when I was younger than 18. The Christmas I was 18, I got the, come here, son. I got the approval of you can come out and hang out with us. And it was like the greatest time. And for a while, when we would have Christmas Eve with them, that was a tradition we always would do. So I would say mainly my stepdad, but that particular moment, and they'd always smoke Monte Cristo White Series. That was the first cigar I smoked. And I think the camaraderie they had, it's a bunch of guys just, I'm younger, so it's a bunch of guys just sitting there talking shit. And just funny to see because, they're about 30 years older than me. So at the time, they're close to my age now. So they're, and they all had kids and just, I don't know, just kind of hearing them talk shit about, an Italian family, just, something's going to go crazy. So it was just a fun time. It's a really a memory that I'm never going to forget. But I would say my stepdad really got me into cigars. And then in my 20s here and there, I would kind of smoke. And then when I started working here, that's when I really ramped up my cigar intake. But I remember, when my stepdad and my mom moved down to Florida, and I went down there to see them. They would always, cigar at night every night. And it was always, either Arturo Fuente, Double Chateau, or a Monte Cristo White. So I'd have to thank my stepfather for getting me into cigars. All right, here's a few more cigar-related questions. Do you prefer a wooden humidor or a Tubador? I'm going to go on the side of saving money. And I know that they sell Tubadors that are like legit, but you could really get a plastic tub at Walmart, some Boveda packs, if you want to do a shot glass of distilled water, and you can store your cigars that way. Now, if I want to show off to like, my stepdad or my friends, I have both. I'll pull out the wooden humidor and I have I've branded it with stickers I've gotten in the past. I'll be like, oh, what do you think of this? This looks nice, right? This is really fancy. But for cost efficiency and for more space, because you can get tubs and you can get humidors that hold up to 140 cigars or something like that. But it's all about cost efficiency. For me, I'd rather spend the money on the cigars than a nice looking wooden humidor where I could just kind of pop them in a Tubador and call it a day. And I know a lot of people who have tubs full of cigars. Pelican cases. Our very own Nick Libretti has, I think, 2 or 3 Pelican cases full of cigars because of how tight those cases are to keep the freshness in for the cigars. But really, it's a preference. Like it's obviously depending on each person. It's a preference. It's just more cost efficient for me, and I get a lot more space getting big tubs of cigar. Big tubs to put cigars in. This is an interesting question, and I did my research on it, and it all kind of said the same thing. So I don't know if it's really different, but for electric, what should be the electric humidor settings for long-term storage for San Andreas and Connecticut wrappers? This kind of goes. It isn't really dedicated to just San Andreas and Connecticut wrappers. This is kind of the overall notes on what your setting should be at for your humidor. First of all, your house or wherever you're storing your cigars should be no cooler than 65 degrees and no warmer than 72 degrees. I would say 68 degrees is the perfect spot to where to store your cigars. So if your house, no matter all year round, is 68 degrees, or maybe your garage or a closet, that would be a perfect place to store them. And for your, relative humidity level, which is, it measures the amount of vapor water in your humidor to maximize the amount of moisture the cold air holds. So it should be between the same type of temperature, 65% and 71%. But ideally, at that 68% tile would be ideal for your humidor to be there. And like I said, these are this is for electrical humidors or regular humidors. And the reason you want that is to avoid your cigars being over-humidified to make them spongy, or to under-humidify it, and then, once you cut it, it cracks and shatters and turns into dust. You don't want that. So I would say around 68% for RH levels, and your temperature in your house or wherever you're storing it is probably the perfect ideal temperature for long storage. And you can store them up anywhere between a year and a half, and maybe even 2 years tops. If you want to, store your cigars that long. I don't have the will to store cigars for 2 years. I have, but at some point I'm always looking to be like, all right, when can I smoke that? All right. The next question kind of, I guess, relates to the Arnold Schwarzenegger quote. Does your wife mind you smoking cigars? And does she have a favorite cigar? So my wife does not smoke cigars. Although her father, my father-in-law, him and I, we bond over cigars. We smoke cigars during the summertime. She does not smoke cigars. I think she's tried a few puffs from mine throughout the 6 years I've been here. But she doesn't mind that I smoke. She might be the only person I know in my life that doesn't mind the smell. That doesn't work here. And it's weird. She has like this sixth sense of, she knows what kind of cigar I smoke when I come home smelling like it, or she gives me a kiss hello when I walk in the door. She can tell I smoke a cigar for one. I mean, it's very potent on your clothes, gets in my beard, my hair. But she can tell when I had a lighter wrapped cigar or a lighter cigar versus a darker cigar, which I don't know what kind of witchery that is for someone who doesn't smoke a cigar. But she does not mind it. There's times where she's like, God, you smoke like it. That's when I'm smoking a few a day. But when we're outside smoking, she likes to be around it because she just loves the smell. And I've noticed that people either love the smell or can't stand it at all. So yeah, that's it's for my wife there, who actually asked the question. But yeah, what were you gonna say?
I was gonna say my girlfriend can't stand the smell of cigars. Like, she hates it.
So let's say you were to meet up with her today. I'm smoking around you. She would know right away someone around you was smoking, right? Or she would just detect that. Yeah,
maybe. I don't know if the
does she
smell
make you
would
change?
be strong enough.
Does she make? Oh God, you smell like it. Change your shirt. Does she ever say stuff like that?
I've actually never met up with her after a work day
Where they're smoking
where I
involved?
was around
Yeah.
smoke. If I ever did, yeah, she probably would make me change.
So if she smells a cigar just around her, she's like, I hate that smell.
Yeah, no,
Okay.
yeah, because we were at a party recently, like an Oktoberfest party, and it was outside, but people were around us smoking, and she like had to go inside, like she
Wow.
couldn't take it. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, she like hates the smell. She told me, she's like, don't ever smoke around me,
Damn.
which is not a problem for me because I don't smoke. But
no, you don't. You'll smoke once in a while here, if that. But
Yeah.
yeah, and that's the thing too. If people don't like it, it's good that you respect her and be like, oh, I'm just gonna smoke it. Screw you, you know. But
Mhm.
the smell, and the smoke gets to people who aren't even smoking. They're like, oh, it's giving me a headache. I'm like, that's never been a problem for me.
yeah, I feel. I'm kind of somewhere in the middle. Like, it doesn't usually bother me. Like when
Yeah.
I have no problem sitting up here.
Yeah, there's
Filming while
people
you're
here who
smoking.
are like, I hate it. And I'm like, okay, well,
But there are times where it can get a little much. Like,
Mm-hmm.
you know,
really
when I'm
quickly,
when I'm in a confined room and everyone in the room is
that
smoking,
can get to you.
That's where it gets to me, and I start
especially
getting a
if there's no
headache.
proper ventilation.
Yeah.
That would get to anybody.
Mhm.
I am smoking the 1502 Ruby. This is my first time smoking it. I think first time smoking this brand. So far, I'm loving it. I love the size, and I think the smoke, it's not too much on my palate. I just want to give a shout out to what I'm smoking, because usually I try to do it on these episodes. Sometimes I just jump right in. This question, I think, is all these questions are great, but I really love this question because I want to be able to dive into it a little bit. Question number 7: how do you feel about all of the limited edition cigars? I feel like a lot of companies, if not all of them, are putting out something for the holidays or special occasions. Do you think limited edition cigars are worth the hype and the money? Now, limited edition cigars for me are it's a tricky thing for me. I'm not one to ever, whatever it may be, kind of, a limited edition game. Maybe if there's a DVD back in the day that had, 3 or 4 hours extra behind the scenes footage, I would consider that a limited edition. Limited edition basketball sneakers or limited edition basketball cards, sports cards. I was never really into that, specifically sneakers, because I know I'm not going to buy, and it's kind of my point here. I'm not going to buy something I cannot show off or enjoy. So for me, I think we are in a space right now where everyone has limited edition cigars. So how limited are they really? Is the term limited edition doesn't mean much. If they're limited to a specific company, like a good example is Tatuaje and Crown Heads. Crown Heads every year has, I think, if I'm not mistaken, there's probably more now, at least 2 to 3 limited edition cigars that come out. You have the Las Calaveras and the 4 Kicks. Those are limited edition. Those were also created at like the beginning, like really when that company was in its infancy. So I think that's maybe more so paying homage or kind of giving back to the OG Crown Heads followers. But if everything is limited edition or they're making something special for the holidays, whether it be Halloween, Christmas, Thanksgiving, 4th of July, those might be cool. But I don't think that they are worth the price of admission, because are you willing to pay that much for it to just sit in your humidor now? Like, if I'm going to buy a box of limited edition cigars, I'm going to smoke them. So am I going to be okay paying a hefty price for something limited? Or in my mind, if it's limited, why am I even going to touch it? Like, why am I even going to think about enjoying that? So am I buying it just to say, hey guys, look, I have this limited edition cigar from Davidoff, or this limited edition from Dunbarton, but I'm not going to touch it. Then to me, like, what's the point?
That would be my thought process. Like, I'm not a smoker, but if I was and I bought a limited edition cigar, I would be afraid to smoke it.
Yeah.
I'd be like, oh, well, I don't know if I'll ever be able to buy these again. So do I want to smoke all, like, let's say I have a box, maybe I'll smoke a couple, but I probably won't smoke the whole box, and it'll probably just sit in my humidor forever.
Yeah, no, I mean, I totally agree. And a lot of these limited edition cigars, like I said, I didn't really fact check this, but it's not like they're coming in boxes of 50 or even 25. They're coming in boxes of 10.
Mm-hmm.
So let's say you do smoke one of them a week. That's 2.5 months. They're gone.
Yeah.
If you smoke a few a week, you'll be lucky if they even last a minute. Not a minute. You'll be lucky if they last a month. So, for me personally, this is only coming from me. I enjoy seeing, I guess, companies releasing these limited edition cigars, but they're not all of them are very special to me. I think what would be more so special is I like the ones that kind of pay homage to their beginning, the farm that the tobaccos are grown on, if that has some historical significance and they made a cigar on that farm, that would make me want to buy it more, even if it was or wasn't a limited edition. I just think that the cigar market has kind of caught on to, like, we make limited editions, our consumers want these, we know we're going to sell out of them, we know that they're hot commodities. But then there's a difference, because I think the Tatuaje Monster series every year, man, that's something I would drop money on, because it's a cool homage to, like, the history of monsters and cinema and things like that. But, I'm not going to smoke them, and I'm sure as shit not giving them away. You ever run into me, if I have cigars, I'm going to say, hey, here you go. I don't mind sharing or giving cigars, especially if I've smoked a bunch of them and you haven't tried it. I don't need to have this extra one in my humidor. But for the JR 50th anniversary, I bought a few boxes when we were releasing them every month. I still haven't smoked at least half of them. I know I bought the Alec and Bradley Wagyu, and I bought the Crown Heads Mother Church 50th anniversary. There's still a few in my humidor, because I'm just like, why am I going to smoke through them? Because they are limited. And I think that's my thought process. So, this is a perfect question for this season. What is your favorite spooky cigar and why? There's a handful of options out there. You have anything from Black Label Trading Company could be considered spooky because of just their themes and their branding. But I mean, I'd have to go with this beats out any Las Calaveras by a hair. I would go with the Tatuaje the Chuck from the Tatuaje Monster series. Chucky is one of my favorite, I guess, if you want to say monsters, villains. I find him hilarious. I do love those movies, although there's a lot of them. But it has a red and it has a blue band with red lettering to kind of pay homage to Chucky's outfit and his crazy ass red hair. It's a Ecuadorian Habano wrapper, so you're going to get a little bit of spice, especially with the Nicaraguan tobaccos in the binder and filler. I think the size I smoked was a little bit bigger than a Robusto, and it was perfect. So in the season of spookiness, I would recommend smoking any cigar from the Tatuaje Monster series. But if you can get your hands on the Chuck, I don't think you'll be disappointed. Next, Next question. How many do we have left? One, two more questions, and then, like I said, another question / statement that I would like to speak on a little bit. But all right, second to last question. What is your favorite thing to do while enjoying a cigar? Now, I'm going to break it down in various scenarios because when I am doing most of my smoking, I am here at work. So when I am smoking here at work, I do enjoy kind of, getting, if we get to smoke in meetings, that's kind of, I feel like, an old timey, like, ha ha ha, like an old timey businessman. I don't look like a businessman at all. So at work, I like smoking like in meetings. I know it sounds silly, but I feel like I'm doing my best thinking. When I'm writing, if it's nice out, I'll go outside and have a cigar and I'll have a beer. And I think it just helps me focus. But other than that, if it's the summertime, there's really nothing better than sitting poolside and kind of just hearing the summer atmosphere around you and having a cigar and just kind of relaxing. I think that's when I'm at my most relaxed. Any other time of season, fall, winter, spring, I like sitting in my garage, putting on one of my favorite albums and having a chance to listen to the album straight through with a really good cigar. And even then I might write in my phone and notes if I have any ideas for movies or a pen and paper, maybe, or my computer. But I would say kind of trying to be creative while smoking. I think that only helps helps my creativity. But there's times where if I don't want to do anything, it's more so chilling poolside or listening to music. If I could, I would love to experience a cigar on the beach. I love the beach. I could spend every day at the beach if I could, because there's nothing better than a post-beach nap either. Like you go to a beach all day and then you go to sleep, but adding a cigar into that with a beer and a sandwich from Jersey Mike's, nothing is better. Nothing is better. So I would say that those are some of the things I like to do while I'm enjoying a cigar. Last question here is, this is a tough one. Which brand do you prefer more? Monte Cristo or Romeo and Julieta? Now, I think both brands are really good. They have, they're the old brands, that date back to Cuba. They're very historical. I think one is celebrating their 90th anniversary. Monte Cristo celebrating their 90th anniversary. Romeo and Julieta celebrating their 150th anniversary. Both have cigars to kind of showcase those milestones. For me, I prefer Monte Cristo. It's not that I don't like Romeo and Julieta. I think I just gravitate towards Monte Cristo more. Like I've been saying, I said earlier on this episode, my first cigar I ever smoked was the Monte Cristo White Series, right? Then you have the Monte Cristo Platinum. Then you have the Monte Cristo in recent years, Monte Cristo M. You have the Monte Cristo 1935 Nicaragua. You have the Monte Cristo 90th. But then Romeo, on the flip side, Romeo has a lot of 1875. They have the 1875 Connecticut, Nicaragua. They have the Twisted Toro, the Reserva Real. But I think my palate just gravitates more towards Monte Cristo, probably because it's more nostalgic purposes. Monte Cristo White was my first cigar I ever had. And I think I've smoked that cigar more than any cigar I really have consumed. So I would say Monte Cristo, but both are really good. But I think Monte Cristo reigns supreme with that. And then we got an interesting question that I really didn't know much about. And then I did some research and it kind of blew my mind, and I wouldn't mind doing kind of like a full episode on this. Someone asked us if you wouldn't mind discussing the cigar culture in East Africa. For one, I had no idea there was a cigar culture in East Africa. I just didn't. I don't know how cigar culture is outside of the United States. It's probably because I feel like the more the more I travel within the United States for cigar events and whatnot, and you are, a lot of the tobacco fields are in South America. They're not, very rarely. Maybe you have the Macanudo Embassy Emissary, France, where they grew tobacco out in the countryside of France. That was really the first time I ever heard of something like that. So I did a little bit of research. I'm not, I don't want to discuss anything I don't know, but I found that in East Africa, they treat cigars. It's not like an everyday, hey, I'm home from work early, I finished the yard, or I'm cutting the yard, let me have a cigar with that. It is more, they smoke cigars more when there is something to celebrate, which I found very interesting. I researched that they are kind of gravitating towards cigars versus cigarettes and another, and I don't know if it was, I forgot that, I don't want to say it was hashish because that's basically like marijuana, but another form of smoking. I don't know if it was hookah, but they are gravitating more towards cigars now. And there are, from, like I said, my research I didn't spend like a day researching it, a few hours. There's the culture of lounges out there. They kind of have like a tier of lounges, which is interesting to me. If you're kind of and if you are out there and you are an everyday smoker, they have lounges for that. But then they have like these top-notch, luxurious lounges all throughout Kenya, where celebrities would go and have cigars, where it is, like I said, if there's a celebration and they are celebrating any type of milestone out there, they will kind of, congregate in this luxurious humidor or lounge and enjoy some cigars out there. I don't know much about the if they're growing tobacco out there. I did see that the women smoking out there, the numbers are a little bit higher versus here in America. But even like when I go to events over here, the balance between men and women smoking, it almost always seems equal. But no, like I said, that would be something to really, if I wanted to dive into an episode to talk about with someone, I would like that. Cause like I said, I had no idea that there was, I don't know if there's a cigar culture in like Ireland or Italy or France or, let alone East Africa. I didn't know. So to kind of do some research on that was really interesting. So I feel like I have to do that gentleman's question or comment, I don't want to do it a disservice, but I got to kind of really dive into that and see, because the little stuff I saw was very interesting. And it could take us into a whole new world where, yeah, most of us know the cigar culture in either our small town we live in, our city, the state that we live in, the United States in general. So that's very interesting. So yeah, that's pretty much it for today's episode. Like I said, it is a Ask Me Anything episode. We'll probably do a few more of these throughout our journey on this podcast. Next week, I don't want to speak before I lock it down, but I think next week is going to be our Halloween episode, and I might bring back good old Nick Libretti, where we smoke some cigars from the Tatuate Monster. What?
I said no way.
No way.
Nick Libretti.
We're going to dress up and maybe just talk about, again, some of our favorite horror movies this year or why we love Halloween. I gotta step up my game with the costume, because I think last year I was Tony Soprano. The year before that I was Bob Ross. One year I was a Ghostbuster. I gotta step it up. I got some work to do this weekend, but I appreciate you guys tuning in every week, listening, commenting, really getting into it with us. I really do appreciate it. If you have any other questions that you weren't able to ask on our Instagram page and you want to ask in the comment of this video, I will respond and get them to you as soon as possible. But once again, thank you for listening. Please don't forget to subscribe, like, share our videos, comment, interact. We love you guys. Until next time, I'm Chris, and this is the Long Ash Podcast.